Good morning, friends. Welcome to GoOnlineTrainings.com. So, yesterday we had discussed about subqueries and correlation subqueries, and today we have to understand the derived tables concept. This is also pretty much important concept that we're going to learn. Before learning, let us go back to subqueries and correlation subqueries, and let us call them once again. So who has the highest balance in the bank, which has two queries. One is that what is the highest balance and who has it. So without subquery concept, we will not be able to write this query. So however you're trying to write it, you will not be able to do that. So you have to write a query. That query, you're going to keep it in the wait clause. This is what is called subquery or inner query or nested query. So this will be executed first, and the result will be given to this outer query, and outer query will be executed. So here the execution is from bottom to top, and the subquery in this is independent query. Independent query means this is going to do the work, and it is going to give you the data to the outer query, and this is outer query is no more is trying to again come back to the inner query. So this is doing the work and giving it to the outer query. So here this inner query or subquery is independent query. So this is going to give you all the data at a time, and if it is giving you single column and single value, we have to use equals to operator. If it is giving you single column multiple values, you're going to use in operator. So subquery cannot return more than one column in SQL Server. If somebody is writing a two columns or star here, that is not a subquery. If you're writing star means you have to keep exist means true or false. So until and unless if you don't keep exist function here, yesterday we had seen, right? If you are keeping exist function, then you can write select star, select multiple columns here. Otherwise, you will not be able to allowed to retrieve more than two columns in this. Okay, so this is what is called subquery. So who has the highest balance in the bank, or who has the highest salary, or who scored highest marks in the class? All these queries need to be answered with the help of subqueries only. Now we had seen what is a subquery. Query in the where clause, or you can say having clause. Say query in the where clause or having clause is called as a subquery, or inner query or outer query. And inner query or subquery will be executed first. The result will be passed to the outer query. Finally, outer query will be executed. Now, we had also seen, find out the who has the highest balance, and we had also seen 10th highest balance. Lot of things we had seen. Now, this is one example you should be able to try. List the account ID and the name where the account holder has done more than three transactions for the month of November 2011. This you should be able to use joins, as well as you should be able to use subqueries and write it. Okay. So I am not giving anything here. So you keep trying. So what is the difference between subquery and correlation subquery? Correlation subquery means it is similar to loop in a loop concept of programming language. So in this, outer query is executed first, and then result is passed to the inner query. Then inner query is executed repeatedly for each value of the outer query. Here the execution is from top to bottom. Okay. So people may ask you the differences also, subquery and correlation subqueries. So execution is from bottom to top, execution is from top to bottom, right? So all the data is sent at a time to the from subquery to outer query in the subqueries. So here one value by value is sent from outer query to inner query or subquery. Okay. So in this subquery is independent query, it is going to execute everything and it's going to give it. But here in this subquery is not independent, it is dependent, because subquery is going to go back to outer query and ask, give me the second value, give me the third value, give me the fourth value, like that. So in this subquery is dependent query. Okay, so these are the important points and compulsory interview questions that you have to answer. So I strongly recommend you watch prior video so that you will be able to understand the subqueries and correlation subqueries very easily. Okay, so we had done this yesterday. If you are using a star or anything else, so you can use exist. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If you simply say balance equals to something, and if you put in, so which column it is going to take and compare with the balance. So definitely we should not put any column. You may use exist. Exist is a function. So what exist is going to do, which is a Boolean function. Boolean means true or false. It's going to return true or false. So it is used to find existence of at least one matching row. So true, at least if you get one matching data, it will become true. Otherwise, it will become false. Okay. Now, yesterday we had written this, too, and in the subquery, you will have a reference to the outer query, right? When the subquery is having a reference to the outer query, and this subquery is called as a correlation subquery. So you cannot execute this independently. When you execute this independently, this will say AM is not available. But normal subqueries, you should be able to execute the subquery independently. There is no problem because select max of C balance from the account master table. So you should be able to, execute this independently. There is no problem in the subqueries. But in the subquery, in the correlation subquery, the subquery cannot be executed because when you try to execute this, this will say that AM is not existing. Clear? So, and you will have a reference to the outer table. So, when you have this kind of uh, a reference, then this subquery is called as a correlation subquery. People can look at this and they should be able to try to tell that this is a subquery, and this will be executed first. This is going to send a one row by one row to the below query. Based on this condition, it's going to check it out. Okay, it'll take one, it'll go to account master table, pick up one account ID. That account ID is going to compare with all account IDs from the transaction master table. And it'll, once it is over, it'll go back to the account master table and pick up the second account ID, and that is going to compare with all the account IDs of the account master table. And once it is done, and it is going to come here. And since exist is there, exist needs one matching row. If it is matching at least one row, the execution is going to be stopping. It is not going to go to go down and check is there any one row. So if it is getting one match, that is more than sufficient, and you're not going to waste your time also, because whether he has done the transaction, if it's done at least once, it is more than sufficient, right? So exist function will become true. It will leave that row and it's going back and get the second value. Clear? So that's what is the correlation subqueries. Now today we're going to understand derived table concept. So what is a derived table? Let us understand. So I take, so let us use iBank. Okay. So let us take select star from account master table. So this is my table. So what is the meaning of this? Get all the data from the account master table. How many rows you have, you should be able to find out. You're getting 62 rows. When you go down, you have 62 rows. Okay. So all the data you're able to get from the account master table. Now I am going to write something here. So what I'm trying to do, I am trying to write a one more query here. Select star from account master table. I am writing a query. Okay, when you write a query, so this query will be executed first, and this query will be whatever the result set you're getting, the same result set will be given, and it is going to be executed. But whenever you write a query here, you have to give some alias. Okay, alias, let us say. Okay, okay. Now a query in the where clause is called as a subquery. A query in the from clause is called as a derived table. This is also giving you same kind of a data. But now people are going to be asking, why, why can't we write only a master? Why are we writing a query here? That is the question. So now the beauty is that, whether you write select star from account master table or select star from this query, both of them are giving you the same result. But there is a beautiful learning point. The beautiful learning point is that we can also write a query in the from clause. A query in the from clause is called as a derived table. Okay, a query in the from clause is called as a derived table. A query in the where clause or having clause is called as a subquery. Are you getting? So, because account master is a original table, from the original table we are getting all the data. This is also a table, but this table is not the original table. This is a query's result set. Okay, so this is also look like a table only, right? Because getting all the data from here. So this data we are going to give it to the outer query. So what is a derived table? Derived table means a query in the from clause. A query in the from clause is called as a derived tables, and the derived tables must give an alias. And you can also use the derived tables for the joins, and derived tables also can be used heavily in the industry. Let us see some, some of the learning points using derived tables. Are you clear? So it is pretty much straightforward topic. So what is the beauty here? The beauty is that a from clause also can have a query, and this query is called as a derived table because this is normal table. From this table only I have derived this and using this query, and this query is called as a derived table, and it must have alias. If you don't have alias here, and it is going to give you alias. This kind of a issues, incorrect syntax nearby. Okay, so you have to give some name. Okay, now it is going to work. So this is what is called derived table. Now let me give you one example where we can use derived tables and how it's going to be helping us. List account ID comma name and number of transactions where the account holder has done more than three transactions for the year 2011. Let me take this query. Okay, copy it, and let me try to take this and okay, let me paste it here and read. List the account ID comma name. So we have account ID name. These are coming from a table called account master table. Okay. Okay. So you're able to get account ID and everything from here. Number of transactions. So number of transactions these people are doing, this data is captured in the transaction master table. So transaction means I'm talking about cash deposits and withdrawals. So who's the customer and what in which branch is doing the transaction? CW means cash deposit, check deposit. CQD means check deposit. This is cash deposit, cash withdrawal, and check deposit. CQD and check number and check date and the transaction amount and the user authenticated. When you go to the bank, there is a teller or executive, he's doing your transaction, right? His employee number we're going to capture. Okay, that is user ID. So date of transaction, this is a continuous numbers. This is identity column. So these are the columns we have. Now I wanted to understand account ID, account name. So name, the customer name is not available here. So you have to join. So transaction master and transaction master because number of transactions done by each customer is here. Okay, so 101 one transaction has done. Again you can see again 102 lot of transactions he has done, lot of things are there. So number of transactions means you have to join this table. So name from this table, number of transactions from this table, and where the account holder has done more than three transactions. More than three means I'm talking about. So more than three means you need to count. After counting, you need to filter. So after counting, if you want to filter, you have to use having clause. Okay. For the year 2011, so the transactions which we are going to see, but all of them have to be done in year 2011. So we are going to use DOT and filtering the data. Clear? So on the DOT, you need to filter the data because there is a date of transaction. So date of transactions you need to take and you need to count which customer. So that means Counting means we need to group it by account ID, and lot of things we're going to do it. Okay. Now, this query I should be able to write with the help of joins. Okay. Let me use joins and write this query. Okay. So I take as I take this as a join transaction master as a T, and when we're joining, you know that we have to write on condition, right? On predicate. So a on a dot account ID equals to T dot account ID. When you say join, this is an inner join. Only matching rows will come. So you're able to get all the data. That is the data here. So 101 row is mapped to 101, 102 is mapped to 102, like that. So if you again have 101, this will get mapped to again 101 of the transaction master table. Total you got 509 rows. Okay, so lot of duplicates because Srividya has done one is cash withdrawal, one more cash withdrawal. So like that, she has done lot of things. Clear? So it is done. Now I don't need this data. I need account ID, name, and number of transactions. So I have to say account ID, comma name, and number of transaction means you have to count. Okay, as count. So we know apart from aggregate function, it is giving you ambiguity error. So account ID is available in both tables. So you have to prefix the alias. Alias is A. Okay, A dot. So we know that apart from aggregate function, whatever the columns you have, that has to be there in the group by clause. If you execute now, it is going to be telling the same thing. So invalid because it is not containing aggregate function, because when you use aggregate function, remember this point. So remaining columns have to be there in the group by clause. Otherwise, this query is not going to be executing. So please watch my group by clause videos so that you should be able to understand group by very neatly. Okay. So I had taken two classes on group by clause, complete aggregate functions and everything that I'm going to share with you. So please watch those videos so that you will be very strong in queries. Let me execute. Okay. Now, account ID and name and how many transactions he has done. So we're talking about number of transactions, right? So number of transactions. Okay. Let me give meaningful alias. But I don't need if the transaction count is less than 3. That is the requirement here. So what is the requirement? A holder has done more than 3 transactions, and for year 2011, so you need to keep year also. Year. So here we have to say date part YY. There is a DOT, date of transaction, equals to 2011. Okay. So it's going to join the data. After joining it, which is going to eliminate the remaining data. So later it is going to bring out this. Now let me execute this query. Okay. So I got 34 rows. Okay. But if you don't keep the where clause, let me comment like this. Comment means it's not going to be executing, right? Let me execute this query. I got 35 rows. Okay, I got 35 rows. So only one row is a change. Now we are getting only 34. That's fine. So still we're able to get some data. Now I wanted to get if the number of transactions are greater than 3, more than 3, right? So then only list. So after transactions, after aggregations, so I have to give having count star greater than 3. Now let me execute. We had 34 rows. Now we had 25 rows. Okay. So approximately some 14 rows, right? 25 means approximately some 10, 11 rows got removed. Are you getting? So I have used joins to get the same query. Okay. Now I have used account master table. So account master table, you have account name. Okay. And after that, for the number of transactions and all, I have used transaction master table. I have joined both of them and I'm able to bring the data for you. Okay. Now, is there any issue in this query? Are there any issues? Let us talk about the issues because many people, when they write the query, when they get the result set, they will be very, very happy saying that our work is done. But is it efficient query? So performance wise also you need to rethink on it. There is a common interview question in the interviews saying that do you know any points on performance tuning? Performance means how do you improve something? So we should be able to talk a lot of things. We have to talk about table designing, table partitioning, query optimization, query writing, creating indexes, and creating rebuilding indexes. Lot of things we can talk. But now, whenever you write a query, at least you have to write a query. That query has to be executing very quickly without having any delay. Now, what are the issues in this query? Let us understand. Now, if somebody asks you how the execution of the query, the execution always will start from the from clause. So, SQL Server will not execute select clause first because it has to go to the table. It will join these two tables based on the account ID and account ID, right? First, from clause will be executed. From clause has a join, so the joining will be happening. So this is going to be happening first. So after joining, what is it's going to do? It's going to eliminate the data. It needs only 2011 data. Now the question is that whenever you taking this data and joining this data based on account ID, you're also joining 2010 data, 2011 data, 2013 data, 14 data, 15 data because this guy is not aware the what is the year number of the transaction. They simply match 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004 all years data based on only account IDs which are going to be matching. After matching, because I told you yesterday, joinings are pretty much costly because when you have two tables, one table is having say 1 lakh rows, but other table is having a 10 million data, 10 crore rows. And when you try to join, so this data, because transaction master will have a lot of data. Every day you do cash deposit, cash withdrawals, right? So doing joining in all the data is pretty much costly, and never use simply joins everywhere because joining is costly operation. Try to understand this point everywhere. Okay. Now, after that, you're eliminating this one. This is completely wrong. You're joining 2010 data, 11 data, all the data, but you're taking only 11 data. If that is the case, why are you joining 2010 data, 2012 data? Because you're going to join based on account ID and account ID. For example, I go to this table. I have one record here. The record may be in 2011 record or may record maybe in 2012 record. That so this data is also joining because of 101. Then you say I don't need these rows because this has happened in 2013. So, but joining is done on these columns, right? So this column is not aware of this. So that means what? Joinings are costly. Never do joinings first and then you're eliminating. So the point here is that always, okay, filter rows as early as possible and join as late as possible. This is the one thing you need to understand, but this we are doing it reverse order. So always filter rows. Filter means apply where clause first, then only you have to whatever the data you're getting, after that you try to join it. That means what? You eliminate 2011 data and whatever the data you're getting, with that data you're trying to eliminate account master table, but here it is happening reverse order. So join as late as possible and filter as soon as possible. But here the first is that it is going to execute from clause. It is joining first, then filtering. This is completely a wrong operation. Okay, that is first thing. The second issue here, Group by clause is also be very, very costly because it has to group the data based on the column. When you have shortened columns like 101, 102, grouping is very much faster. But when you grouping by name is very, very costly. Lengthy column names should not be used in the group by clause. That is the second point. So I have used, because Radha Krishna, I have to group it, right? If I wanted to group it, I have to compare complete string and with the same string. So comparing with the big strings is very, very slow. Instead of having this, you should be having only the shortened columns. But if you remove something from here, will it work? So the architect or the lead will say, hey Bhaskar, you remove this. But as we learned, apart from aggregate function, whatever you have, these have to be mandatorily has to be there in this. So otherwise it's not going to be working. So you keep like this, but the customer, your lead says that no, 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 the group by clause should not have a lengthy column names. You remove it from here. So if you're removing, so it is not going to be working, right? Already we had seen. So what you're trying to do, you delete from here also, because whatever be the aggregate functions, you leave that, remaining column has to be there in the group by clause. Now you're able to do that. But when you execute, the customer says, I need the name also because I don't remember the account ID. Are you getting? So again, so the lead says you should not keep lengthy column names, but if you keep lengthy column names, it is a dangerous things, and the customer also needs this one. Clear? Because customer says, I wanted to see the name of the customer. You will not be able to keep this, and you will keep this here, and you will not be able to delete from here. So end of the day you're stuck. So this query has two major issues. When you have a large amount of data in the production, when you give this query to the production department, so this query will become dead slow, and immediately your lead will come, hey Bhaskar, you rewrite the query, it is very, very slow. Are you getting my point? Now you have to understand these 2 points. Now always filter rows as early as possible and join as late as possible, and avoid using lengthy column names. These are the two tips I have given. Like that, there are many tips that you are going to get it. So now what I'm going to do, instead of it joins, okay, so I use a derived table concept. Okay, so you can try with subquery also. I'm not saying you should not do it, but remember, joining is very slow operation. You do it at last. Now I take this transaction master, okay, and the query, let me trying to do this with this query only, where, so we are able to get date part, okay, yy comma dot 2011 data. am able to get it now. Okay, so because the data of transaction is available here, so let me take the second table. I'm not joining first, so let me execute. You're able to get 2011 data, but you need account ID wise number of transactions. So you write account ID comma count star, so that is number of transactions. But apart from aggregate function, whatever you have, that has to be there in the group by clause. Okay, group by account ID. Okay, you're able to get it, but you need people have done more than 3 transactions, right? For that you have to use having clause, having count star greater than 3. Okay, you did not join, so you're able to get the complete 25 rows, so you're able to get it. But the question is that you need the name. To get the name, now you're going to join. So how are we joining? We're joining select star from account master table as a join. So open the bracket. So this is what is a beautiful point. This is what is the query, and this query you're going to keep in your from clause as K. Okay, so this table is going to be joining with a table called K. K is a query. So this query, this is the query, right? So now when you execute, you're able to get accounted. So this account ID and this account ID you should be able to map. So on A dot, okay, on A dot account ID, okay, A dot account ID equals to, you can say K dot account ID. Okay. Now, if you execute this query, you're able to get all the data from both tables. You're able to get account master table data is still this, and these two columns from the derived table. Now, what all you need? I need name, I need address, okay. So I need ID and name and count. Only these three columns I don't need address and branch ID. So whatever the columns you need, that you need to write it here. So A dot account ID, because it is having, and name from the first table, and CNT. You need not again count, because already we have counted the data is available in this table. Okay. Now only you should be able to count. Now try to execute this query. Okay, you're able to get the answer. Now can you tell me, you are having a group by clause but name is not available, and you're executing this query, and you'll get some data. This data you're going to get it, and whatever be the data you're getting, with this data you are able to join this. Because if you wanted to join these two tables, this is not a table at all, this is a nothing but a query. So query is returning a two columns and multiple rows. This is a table. So this table name is K. So I am filtering first, then grouping. I am also again filtering. I get some data, and whatever data I'm getting, with the data I am joining account master table. So because from clause will be executed, already we know. And from clause, if you wanted to execute first, and first you have to execute, and then you need to execute this. So what SQL server will do? SQL server will execute this query first, and it's going to keep the data in the RAM, and it will go to account master table, get the data, and this is going to be mapping based on this. But now when you execute this query and get the data, that means you're getting, first filtering is happening, then grouping is also happening, then filtering happening, then whatever the data you got it with this, and you're going to join this. That means what? First removing the data, then whatever the data you got, and with the data you're able to join with account master table. Now you don't have a group by name also, but end of the day, when you execute this query, you have group by name and everything, right? So a query in the from clause is called as a derived table. So derived table must also have alias. So whenever you use aggregate functions, definitely you must use aliases and everything in the derived tables. And we have used this derived table inside our from clause to join. Clear? Now, whatever be the issue we were talking about, now that is gone. Now you're able to get same rows. So when you see, you have 25 rows, but when you go back and check, this query is also, this is also giving a 25 rows. Now definitely this query is not at all a good query, but here we have used joins. Okay, here also we have used joins, but thing is that we have used derived table along with the joins. That is purely joins. Are you clear? So this will give you major learning on the derived tables, because derived tables many times you can apply writing a query, and that query you should be able to keep it in the from clause, is called as a derived table. Yeah, am I clear, guys? So this is what is the derived table. So what is a derived table means we know. So list the names of the account holders and the number of transactions they have done it. This is also have done some derived table concept. Okay, because I wanted to pick up name, but I don't want to keep the name in the group by clause. So I'm doing something, get the data, and whatever the data I'm getting, that I'm going to join. And from the first table, I'm getting the name. From the second table, I'm getting only the number of transactions. Okay. So in the account master table, you have account ID. So in this also, I need to have one common column that I'm going to keep it here, and I'm able to write this. Clear, guys? Now, this is what is the derived table concept. Are there any questions? So many people understand that it is not the writing of a query. It is always important that how you are able to think and write the query is very, very important, because efficient way of writing query is very, very important. I told you already, a query can be written in different ways. Many ways are there. A query can be written in 50 ways, 50 ways. So you may use group by clause, you may use joins, you may use subqueries, you may use subqueries and joins, you may use correlation subqueries, you may use derived table concepts. End of the day, lot of things are there that you have to use, and that you have to get it and understand it. So these are pretty much important concepts. Subqueries, correlation subqueries, derived tables are important concept that you have to be using in your case studies, and that you have to practice heavily. So if you think something, you plus try to use joins first, and you can also use subqueries and try to compare and how you're able to perform, and which is the better one, which is the best one. Because people are going to use the lot of data in the production, they're going to run the both queries, and in the for the performance tuning purpose. Okay, if something is taking a lot of time, they'll give you, hey, you have to reread this query. So performance tuning, many queries, many stored procs will fail, because it should not take much more time.